Hi, I'm Jenny with Threads of Hope Counseling in Minnesota, and today I'm going to talk to you about why you should never talk about politics over the holidays. Talking about politics can create a lot of unnecessary stress on your family and on you. There are two exceptions or situations in which you could talk about politics. Those scenarios are: 1, you have the emotional maturity and ability to talk about them respectfully with the intent to listen and understand the other person's perspective. And 2, the people you are engaging with have the emotional maturity and the willingness to do this as well. It doesn't matter if you might be mature enough to handle this. If the people you're talking to are not able to do this, not worth engaging. So if you don't meet both of these criteria, do not engage. You need to recognize that closed minds cannot be changed. And people on both parties, people in any camp, politically speaking, can be closed-minded. And not all people are aware that they are closed-minded. You are blowing up smoke. You are wasting your emotional energy if you try to change the minds of people like this. It's also important that you don't personalize other people's comments related to politics. A lot of mudslinging happens, unfortunately, even within our families and friends, even with people we love, even inadvertently. A lot of distorted thought patterns are engaged when we're talking about politics. Things like overgeneralizations, oh, those Republicans, they all think X. Or, oh, those darn Democrats, they all want to be socialists. They all want to Y. Or those silly third-party people, those silly people who won't commit to a party, they're the reason that our society is crumbling. No matter where you go, people have strong feelings and they have distorted thought patterns attached to them. And the way that they share those beliefs has less to do with you than it has to do with them and the way that they're processing them. So don't take it personally if someone else is being unhealthy in how they express their beliefs. If you become familiar with some of the common distorted thought patterns and recognize things like generalizations, you'll have a better chance of being able to not personalize people's comments. So when they say that thing about all of this party or all people who believe that about this issue, you can remember that that's not true. And the fact that they are expressing that just shows that they don't really understand. They don't see that they're using a distorted thought pattern, but it doesn't mean that it applies to you. It's really important to set healthy boundaries around political talk whenever you're with your family or anyone. This can be as simple as setting the tone for what you want to discuss and what you don't want to discuss. And as complex as how are we going to deal with people who are getting escalated while we're in the midst of this conversation that I didn't want to have in the first place. If you start a family gathering with clear expectations and laying out the boundaries, that's the most effective way to go. So saying things like, I'd really like for us to enjoy our time together today, so we're going to ask that politics just not be on the table as points of conversation. And if people forget that we've asked this, we'll just gently remind you, hey, remember, politics are off the table for this holiday. Setting that tone early can help to avoid a lot of unnecessary stress. Maybe you need to set or consider setting rules for fair fighting, so to speak. So rules like no name calling, please don't lump me in with any category of people who think a certain way. Maybe you just need to set a tone for that. Like, if we're going to talk about X issue, it's important to me that the words stay pleasant, that we don't insult each other, that we don't tear down each other's character when we're discussing this issue. And be prepared for any possible escalation, especially if you have a family where that has been a challenge in the past. If you know people tend to get heated, have a game plan for how you're going to respond to that. Maybe you need to consider having timeouts as part of how you're going to respond. Maybe you need to have more clear conversations about how you feel or areas you differ and how you're going to deal with that coming up. Maybe you need to just say, I'm going to walk out of the room for a minute if this issue comes up, or if I hear name calling or whatever behavior might be stressful. Maybe you might need to leave an event early. As much as that's not fun for anybody, you might need to be prepared for that level depending on the family dynamics or friend dynamics you usually face, and keeping yourself safe and healthy in that. So when I'm talking about boundaries, I'm always emphasizing being prepared and practicing ahead of time. Of course, you can't know every topic that's going to come up that's going to push buttons. You can't know every behavior of anyone around you, but many of us have been around our loved ones enough to have some insight into how they might behave, how things might go wrong. And if we practice those hard conversations ahead of time with a trusted other person, with a friend, with your dog or cat, you'll be better prepared to handle it in the moment. So let's play out a few scenarios that maybe will feel really familiar to you, maybe not, of effective boundary setting. Lainey, that joke felt kind of racist. Can we try to keep the jokes clean?
Oh, that wasn't racist. I have several black friends and they would have laughed.
That may be true, but it doesn't change how the joke landed for me.
I would never be racist. I'm a good person.
I don't appreciate jokes that feel racist, and that joke felt racist to me. So can we just please keep racial topics off the table?
You've just lost your sense of humor. You need to lighten up.
You're entitled to your opinion, but I'm going to ask you to respect mine. Otherwise, I may choose to step out of the room if this continues.
I can't believe that you would support someone who feels that way about abortion.
I understand that your feelings are really intense about this issue, but I'm going to have to ask you to respect that my feelings on the issue are different.
I thought you were a Christian. Voting this way does not suggest that.
Please don't attack my character because I feel something different than you.
You know this whole situation is really just a government hoax, right?
Given the statistics that I have seen, I'd have to disagree.
Well, 78% of statistics are made up on the spot.
I've done my own research and fact-checking, and based on what I've found, I just believe that this situation is real and needs to be taken seriously. We may just have to agree to disagree.
We may need to agree that you're an idiot.
Name-calling isn't helpful or appreciated. I'm going to have to ask you to be respectful, and I'm going to go take a break. When I come back, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Thanks. So all jokes aside, you should not talk about politics over the holidays. If it's at all within your power, don't do it. Avoid the temptation. Engage in positive relationship with your family and loved ones. And if that's not entirely in your power to control, I hope that these tips have helped you to come up with some good ways that you can set the tone for a more healthy and positive family experience over the holidays. Thanks, and have a happy holiday.